Conversations with Janelle. I've got a really fantastic show lined up for you today. There's some special guests here with me. I'm going to introduce them now. First of all, we have Tessa Joseph.
Hello.
And we also have Livingston Gilchrist. Now, they are from the Diaspora Debating Association, which we're going to talk about some more about today. But before we get started, I'm just going to let Tessa and Livingston introduce themselves a bit more, tell you a bit more about themselves before we talk about what this great project is that they've got going in terms of the DDA, the Diaspora Debating Association. So, first of all, I'm going to come to you.
Okay.
So, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Tessa Joseph. I am a journalist by profession. So I went to the University of Arts, the famous London College of Printing. I went on to working at several national newspapers. So I worked at the Evening Standard, I worked at the Sunday Mirror. I also worked at the New Nation with Michael Iboda, so I worked there for a while. And so I did freelance writing, the Prison Reform magazine and stuff. And then I decided to take a break to work with this American company who works with young people around criminal justice and youth work and mentoring. So I did that. So this I've done for the past 6-7 years. I have worked with many youth offending teams across London. Initially I kept up the freelance writing, but then it became a lot more involved, so I started doing more of that. Yeah. But for the past year and a half, I want to go back to my passion, which is really writing. I love print journalism, so I want to do print and more writing. So so that's my kind of journey back into what I really love, what I really want to do, and that kind of sums up what I've been doing for the past 15 years. Yes,
really interesting. And how about yourself? Livingston, tell me a bit about yourself.
Background. It's been a very colourful journey in that I left school, studied engineering. So I've done mechanical engineering, moved from that into transport, warehousing, logistics, and consulting. So work both here in London and mainly in London, and a short stint of a couple of years in Liverpool. Came back to London. A bit disillusioned as to what the future held. Thankfully, I was picked up by an entertainment company, entertainment distributor. Entertainment UK is the name. It was part of the Woolworths Group. So came in there initially in the logistical role, then very quickly moved into learning and development, and that's where I found my true niche, because I'm very much a people developer, and so. Heading up the Learning and Development Department within Entertainment UK, providing technical training predominantly, and then moved into coaching as well, so core on leadership and management. And then sadly, the recession hit, and Entertainment UK unfortunately went out of business when Woolworths stores went out of business. So it led to me having that, not midlife, but later life crisis, where it's like, okay, you've gone so far in your career, where do you go? And I thankfully met my current business partner. I was volunteering my time, as was she, and we found we had a lot of synergies, so we started the company MLB. MLB stands for Mentoring, Life Skills and Business. So the business has now been running for 7 years, and whilst developing and building MLB, my business partner and I, we have found ourselves being invited, as it happens just this morning, I was invited to join the directorship of another organization.
Fantastic.
So we would, in some ways, refer to ourselves as social entrepreneurs, because we help people start up in business, and often we're invited to join their directorship or their board.
Yes.
So that's very much what motivates me, and my involvement with Diaspora Debating Association back in 2011. Tessa came to myself and others and said, I've got this great idea, a debating association. I'm like, oh, that sparked my interest because it's about educating people.
Yes.
And the art of articulation, oratory, it's really stimulated my interest. And as such, I agreed to join Tessa, and that's how DDA was born.
Fantastic. I think it's for us to talk about the concept that these guys have, and actually not just a concept, but now it's something that's been running for quite a while. I believe it was founded in 2011.
Yes.
And bringing the community together, African Caribbean community, to actually talk about issues that matter, that are at the heart of the community, and debating those issues. But there's so much more than that, as Livingston you just described. There's the educational aspect, there's the legacy aspect, which we'll talk about. There are so many benefits actually to having this forum where people can come together within the community and debate issues that really matter to them. So Tessa, I'm going to come back to you. I just want you to tell me how you got to this idea, where it came from, and what you did to actually take it from an idea to actually setting it up.
Okay, so my formative years were spent in the Caribbean, so I went to school in St. Lucia, and as part of my primary and secondary education, I did loads of debating. Debating is a big thing in the Caribbean. It's also a big thing, as I'm sure you would know, in Canada, in America.
Yes.
And here it tends to be mostly at the universities.
That's right.
So I went to college here in the UK, and I joined a debating club. And I was really passionate about it, having done it before. I also went to university and again joined the debating club and continued debating. And I've always wanted to do it. And my friend at the time said to me, you always talk about debating, why don't you go ahead and do it? You know, stop talking about it, do it. So I thought, okay, so I kind of, in my mind formulated a plan, a strategy as to how I'm going to go about doing this debating club. Because lots of people then hadn't heard of debating or knew what it was about. So I remember first approaching this journalist on Voice of Africa radio called Space.
Right.
Because he was somebody I really admired. I listened to his show all the time. He was controversial. He was just really lots of information. His show was very informative. And I approached him and I said to him, I want to do this debating club. And he said, yeah, it's a great idea. And as a fellow journalist as well, I thought, I've got a lot of respect for him. So he said, yes, he's going to come on board. And I'd seen this gentleman at another event, and we got a mutual friend who had said to me, he does a lot of hosting, and he does his business, and he's very articulate. And I saw him in action at this event I went to, and I thought, right, this is number 2. I'm going to go get him. And this, I had to run after Livingston for months, trying to even talk to this man.
Did you play hard to get
Livingston?
Yes,
I had to. I need to speak to you. I need to speak to you. I need to, I've got this idea. I need to speak to you. And anyway, eventually I spoke to him, and he was great and supportive and said yes, definitely. I spoke to Althea Grant, who is a solicitor and radio presenter. And again, I had seen her in action too. She had hosted a couple of events I'd gone to, very articulate, very well spoken. So I approached Althea Grant. So I was very strategic about the people I wanted to get involved in this debating club, and so we got these people on board. A couple more came on board, like Angela Hines, and now we have a completely different team. Livingston's the only original member.
Right. Space
having gone back to Ghana, and Alfie Grant is in Jamaica, and so we've got a new team, but just as supportive, such a still motivated, driven, believe in the vision. And so this is how DDA was born basically in the UK. And
when you actually started, when you had the idea, did you have a firm vision of what it needed to be? Or
yes.
did you just have this passion for debating that you wanted to bring to the community, you wanted to engage the community with, but you didn't quite know what that forum would look like?
Well, a bit of both, because I wanted it to be a debating club where we, black-led, where we debated black issues or issues that were of interest to the black community. So I knew this for definite. The only thing is initially I thought there'd be a greater emphasis on youth debating, but it so happened that as we developed, it was, I suppose, easier to establish ourselves doing a lot of debating with the older, generation. But we do have a youth wing in saying that. But there, I was very clear about it being a debating society, talking about black issues that affect us, and the other vision, obviously, was because I wanted to promote public speaking. I wanted to promote oratory. Just people challenging mindsets and building confidence, being articulate, exactly, being able to represent and say what you mean and be able to confidently display or pass that message on. So we thought about schools and people who had at work they had disciplinary cases or hearings. You spoke of, thought about people, just everyday life, people debating and listening and sticking to the topic and, all of these things, having some kind of structure. So,
and getting their point across, I imagine, in an effective way.
Exactly.
Most of us have an opinion, we have something to say, but actually ensuring that your point hits home, that's really difficult. That it resonates, that it sends the message that originated in your thought and that comes out of your mouth. Sometimes it's not always easy to have the two connect, especially when you have complex ideas. Or you have ideas that are quite controversial or present a challenge or whatever that might be.
And also having the evidence to to support what you're saying, because one of the things I remember at the time was on Facebook, where I was involved in all these different groups and people were passionate about what they said, but they would say anything. They were disrespectful, they were going off topic, there was no evidence to support what they were saying, and I thought, and this is why Didier and Livingston will support this, it's very, very, very structured.
Absolutely.
So we, debaters go and research what they're meant to be presenting, and it's, in a very respectful, structured manner.
There's etiquette,
it's delivered.
Right? There is etiquette.
That's right.
Very much so.
You mentioned that the popularity of DDA was more within the older generation than the younger generation. I think debating is important for all of us for the very reasons that you mentioned, to be able to articulate, to be orators, to know how to speak up for yourself and for others, in fact, and to get your point across. But I'm going to bring it back a little bit, because just in terms of my own experience and probably the experience of many of you out there, as a child of West Indian parents, I was always taught to be seen and not heard. And I have to say that, of course, we thought that was great, brought up in terms of having our children there when adults around, they are silent, they don't say anything, you don't put a word wrong, a foot wrong. Now, in terms of kind of cultural etiquette, cultural practices that we have, I understand we all kind of accept the theory of that, I think, which is children need to know their place. However, I think within the Caribbean community, that has, in some respects, had negative effects, because as youngsters, we, in terms of our self-expression, that's kind of stifled in some respects, our self-expression, especially self-expression and being able to speak beyond your peer group. So not just to your friends in the playground or hanging out at the cinema or whatever that might be, but actually to be able to express yourself to those outside of your peer group, whether that be adults, teachers, whatever service you might encounter. It's very important to know how to be able to present yourselves within those arenas to be successful in life. So I just want to talk about that and kind of explore, is that, do you find that the less engagement you find amongst the youngsters, is that because of that? Do you think that comes from that? Do you think it's due to something else? And do you actually think that we can turn that around and encourage our youngsters to speak up?
I think that I'd like to add another element to the mix. and that is the modern phenomenon called social media.
Yes.
And the fact that a lot of young people seem to be losing the art of conversation because it is communicated via text, emojis and shortened words and abbreviations. Nothing wrong with that. But what it does create is a challenge in terms of how a person engages and communicates and expresses themselves in a manner that is easy to understand, is clear, concise, passionate. Because where a person is not used to engaging conversationally, then their social skills will suffer. That's what I learned. Let's go back to what you mentioned about be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
That was my upbringing.
Yes.
However, as I got older and I became a parent myself, I also was exposed to different social groups. And one of the things that I found with, shall we say, those of more of an affluent background, irrespective of cultural background, but affluent background, they often ensured that the young children were close by. So, for example, if they were business people and they had colleagues, associates, clients, whomever, over by the house, social engagement, could be a business engagement, the children were close by. Why? Because they can listen and pick up things. So the traditional, as you said, West Indian cultural background, whereby be seen, not heard, when the big people are in the front room, the children are in another room.
Yes.
I believe it's important that we recognize that in order to help our young people to develop the skills to engage conversationally, to be knowledgeable, to know how to articulate, how to gesticulate, how to ensure that you reinforce the message, all these things need to be shown and given to our young people. So if I may link that then to the Diaspora Debating Association, when Tessa came to me, as much as Tessa suggested I played hard to get for a while, it was purely because I had so many things on that it was a case of trying to lock me down to have a proper conversation. But when we did have that conversation, I was hooked from the word go. Why? Because the concept of debating, as we have already said, traditionally is in the education environment, from universities and in the Caribbean, right throughout the schools. I came to this country as a child. However, I do remember the annual spelling bee competition, which was so big an event in schools. It's absolutely, because it's important that we know how to spell. It's important that we know how to engage conversationally.
Yeah.
It's important that we know how to represent ourselves. So DDA for me was almost the opportunity to put something back into our community. Because let's go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's how we communicated.
That's right.
The art of storytelling.
Yeah.
So I remember, again, as a child in Jamaica, at the top of the hill in our little village, every Friday, that's when the elders came and sat down. And the little children like myself sat down, and we're enthralled by the elders sharing their stories.
Yeah.
And I also remember they would encourage us to contribute, which, as you said, traditionally be seen and not heard, but they would encourage us to contribute.
Yes.
What did you think of that? What did it mean to you? Imagine this little 7-year-old child being encouraged and invited by the elders to stand up and talk and turn towards your peers. Wonderful. Fast forward, we're adults. DDA, as Tessa said, creates a platform where it is structured. You use the word etiquette. Perfect. That's exactly how it is, because we refuse to compromise. We will not compromise in the sense that, yes, we're a passionate people, and there are times we can overly express ourselves by raising our voices, and it can be perceived as confrontational. However, it's the passion. And I may be controversial in saying this, however, I'm going to say it anyway.
Say it.
In the Caribbean, we have Jamaica. on the African continent, we have Nigeria. There's this wonderful synergy between Nigeria and Jamaica.
Definitely.
Why? Because amongst many components, there's one that stands out. We can be loud.
Yes.
We can be expressive, passionate.
Yes.
Those who don't understand the cultural nuances wouldn't understand.
Yes.
However, it is what it is. So it's not to say that the DDA platform is a platform for a person to be loud. No, it's a platform for people to be able to express clearly, engage, and be intellectual combatants. Really reinforce your message.
Yes.
And as again, I'm sure Tessa will expand a bit more later on. The process that we go through to put a point across and then come back to rebuttals. I mean, for me, it is a pleasure to be in this environment.
Absolutely.
I remember when the first time I really came across debating was in my secondary school. I was privileged. I don't want to use privilege, not the right word, but I had the advantage of being able to go to a grammar school. My parents were able to send me to a grammar school so that I could, they wanted to give me the best education.
Yes.
And that's the first place I came across debating.
Yes.
I knew what debating was within my mind, but actually coming into real contact with it and being actually engaged with it myself, that was the first time I came across it. I am aware, however, that most people in this country don't come into contact with it or come across it until they're at university. Again, I came across it at university. And as soon as I was engaged in that, I was in my element. I loved it. I love to talk. I love to express myself. I love to express my opinions, and I absolutely loved it. But what it also gave me was, back to what you've said, etiquette.
Yes.
It's not just about talking. Actually, it's about listening.
It's
about processing what somebody else has said. It's about respecting other people's opinions. You may not agree, but it's about having that respect for somebody else's opinion. That's so important. And not thinking that your view or your way is the only way, but accepting that there are many views out there. Also understanding your response and your reaction to other people's views and being able to articulate that too. So I think that's hugely important. So let's talk about the things that you've been doing then. Let's talk about the current debates that you have. How often do you meet? The kind of topics that you talk about? How do you choose your topics? Is it your debaters that come along and suggest topics, or do you set the agenda? Tell me more about how the actual setup works.
All of the above.
Yes, absolutely all of the above. We've had so many topics over the years. We debate bi-monthly. So we have debates every other month, and some of the topics we've had or topics we've debated are black marriage in crisis within the black community. We've had black music in crisis. We've had immigration to the UK as a strengthen or weaken the black family unit. We've had Kwanzaa. Black History Month is more relevant to the black community than Kwanzaa. We've had the Brexit debate recently. We've had Black Lives Matter debate, which was our last debate.
And also another one, which is the question around African or black.
Yes, we've had African or black as well. I mean, we've had so many debates, but like Livingston said, which is so true, every debate that we have is almost like the first. I get so excited, and some of the things you mentioned, just sitting down and watching those debaters on the podium and hearing the different sides to one argument. And that's one of the things we have to realize as we go through life. There are always two sides, okay? Because every team goes out and it gets evidence that supports their argument. Okay, so it's really interesting sitting down and watching them debate this, and in a very structured way, very respectful way, very informative, very educational, and so that's what we do in terms of how often we do it. In terms of the topics, we ask people to suggest. We always say to people, you're welcome to suggest topics, and some people have. Sometimes as a team, we sit down and we talk, we give suggestions as to what we think should be the next topic, or over the next 6 months, what topics we think we should debate. But in choosing a topic, there's so much in being able to choose a topic, because I remember being engaged online with engaged online recently, where we heard where somebody kept saying, well, a topic shouldn't be a statement, it should be a question. But of course, we know, debating rules, it has to be a statement. It has to be a motion. Yes, statement, motion. And there was this big debate. She kept saying, no, it's great. Didier's been doing it wrong.
About the debating
protocol.
Yes. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but we choose the topics, and we make sure the topics are, current, they're relevant, they're things people have been talking about. We make sure that they generate research, so both teams can go out, get enough information.
So we've got this lovely cup here. Now, in my experience, having debated at university, etc., it's usually run on a competition basis. You have two sides of the argument. Whichever side puts their argument across the strongest is usually the winner. So is that the same concept that you have for DDA? And if it is, who are the judges? Please don't tell me Simon Cowell. I think he's got enough enough judging gigs at the moment. Good.
I guess when it comes to the competition, yes, it is on that basis, i.e. we have the statement, and we'll have the proposition team.
Yes.
And of course the opposition team.
Yes.
And the way it will run is that we'll have the opposition going first to challenge that position, and then it goes from one side to the other. And then goes down to the final stage, where it's the rebuttal, where they essentially just pick holes in each other's arguments and reinforce their message, and ultimately vying to be the winner. Judging. We have a minimum of 3, average 5. I should go back side by saying the teams are 3 per team. The debating teams are 3 per team. There have been occasions where we've had 2. On those occasions, we reduce the judges down to 3 judges. And the judges will score in 4 categories. And this is where Tessa comes in, because she'll remember the actual categories, which are?
Content. So basically what they're going to present. What they're saying. Then we have research, because that's a big one. They need to have evidence, they need to have statistics, quotations, and they need to give the source of those quotations and statistics. We also have presentation, because after all, we're a debating society. So it's about how you present, making, the gesticulation, the public speaking element, the movements, etc. And then and humor, all of these things we have, on the presentation, content and research. But DDA, and this is just a DDA thing, when I started DDA, I added the other category. So the other category is for anything that the debater brings in that's refreshing, that's different, and the judges, it doesn't actually fit under the other criteria. They think, oh, I really liked that, I'm going to award extra points. So it could be something like, for example, a debater sat singing or rapping a song to reinforce their point, or they do a dance to, like in the black music debate, they danced to demonstrate how songs and dances come about. And so anything that's other, we have this category.
So before we wrap up and talk about how actually you guys out there can get involved, I'm sure you're as excited as I am to attend the next debate. The topics sound fantastic. But before we wrap up, I just want to talk about the wider benefits of what you guys are doing. It's not just about getting people out to talk, to debate key topics, but there's so much more benefit that comes from having an organisation like this, in terms of legacy, in terms of education, in terms of long-term benefits in people's lives, socially in general. So I just want you both to just give me some really key points about the wider benefits of being part of the DDA, the Diaspora Debating Society. What can people get from it?
Well, a number of things. First of all, the events that we stage, they're all filmed. And therefore we'll have videos, as in DVDs, per event. The fact that the debating teams have gone into so much work to research their material and present and deliver, that's quite rich. So the videos are information rich, so they're points of reference, and that's available to whomever would like to access a copy. We have said from the outset that we would like for this material to be available in libraries, youth clubs, cultural groups, you name it. So we have that data bank of information. That's one. You mentioned legacy. It goes without saying that, as Tessa said, we start with more of a mature group of people. We do have a youth wing, and we're developing the youth wing. We need more young people to come on board. That is where we're looking at in terms of our legacy, to hand on and to work with them whilst we're still here.
Yes.
Equip them. We were very, very blessed at the weekend to have had our very first debating skills training session.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Of which there were 3 young people and the father of one or two of the young people there. And to see how the young people engaged. I think the youngest was about 16.
Wow. Yeah, the youngest was 16, so we had somebody from secondary school, one doing his A-levels, one who's just left education and going into work.
Absolutely, and they were passionate, engaging, articulate, funny at times, and they grasped what the training was about, essentially debating skills as well as presentation skills and public speaking skills. We had a very spontaneous session where they're given topics that they're given a minute, 60 seconds to prepare for, and then 60 minutes to deliver. And Tessa just sat there open-mouthed because
it was a joy.
It was so impressive. This is part of why DDA exists, to build young people, to build their confidence, their ability to engage effectively. They can use these skills at interviews. Yes, they can use these skills in relationships. They can use these skills when they represent themselves with any public body. Wherever they choose to go in life, these skills that they develop are there. And the training is available to everyone. Yes. Absolutely everyone.
And can I just say on that point as well that this is the first of many training sessions or workshops that we're going to have. So we had a debating skills workshop last weekend. Next year we're hoping to have some more debating skills workshops. We're going to have some public speaking workshops. We're going to have elocution, lessons as well. We're going to have, workshops just based on research, the art of research, how people go about research, not just go on Google, but, all of the different ways you can research. And exactly. So we're going to have lots of workshops. And this is part of our legacy as well. We want to make sure that DDA is a kind of learning, training institution where we can use in-house trainers. We've got people like Livingston, who's a trainer. We've got people like Paul Lawrence, who's a trainer. And we're going to use our in-house trainers as well as external contractors to come in and deliver training under the DDA banner. So
I'm really
I'd like to add one other element, if I may, just going back to the original vision for DDA. And I recall having the conversation around the film The Great Debaters with Denzel Washington, Forrest Whitaker and co. And the fact that you had a relatively small, seemingly insignificant school in certain sections of American society's eyes going up against the Ivy League and winning. What it did for me, it inspired me to believe that Tessa's vision for DDA, to begin here in London, develop across London, then go to the regions, and then lead to a national competition where we'll invite down the teams that have been eliminated right through to the final, and final being held here in London. And then taking that team forward internationally. That is part of DDA's vision, that is part of DDA's legacy, and watch the space, it is coming.
Fantastic. In fact, I was going to touch on what's next for DDA.
Yes.
You've captured that perfectly, Livingston. Thank you both so much. It's been wonderful to hear about the great work that you're doing. I'm sure everyone out there will agree this is a really worthwhile cause, something that's really dear to me actually in terms of learning, education, self-development, cultivating of minds, cultivating our community, and this contributes to all of that in a fantastic way. So before we say goodbye, I just want you guys to let the people out there know where they can get involved. If somebody wants to be part of your debating organisation, if they want to come and turn up and contribute to a debate, where can they get the information? Where can they find out what's coming up next?
Okay, so they can email us at diasporadebate@hotmail.co.uk. So that's diasporadebate@hotmail.co.uk. We also have a Facebook. So you can go on our Facebook page, which is Diaspora Debating Association on Facebook. And yeah, we have Twitter, which is Diaspora Debate. Yeah, so these are the ways you can get in touch with us now. We have a website under construction, and so we let people know. But all notices in terms of debates and the activities that we have coming up. In fact, next year we're going to have this big anniversary event in May to celebrate 5 years of debating in and around London. We've debated in Luton, we've debated in Birmingham, and so we want to celebrate that. And all the debaters who've helped us grow and get to this point. So, yeah, next year May, watch this space. All this information is on our DDA page, which is Diaspora Debating Association on Facebook.
Thank you very much. And just before we go, I think it's safe to say, for those out there who are a bit nervous, thinking, well, I'd like to go along, see what's going on, but not so comfortable in speaking first off, I'm sure you welcome observers too.
Yes, we do. And you can get involved in many ways. You don't have to be a debater. You can be a judge. You could be a judge. You'd be briefed as to how to be a judge. You could just be part of DDA in terms of helping organise, helping us with marketing, helping us, spread the word out there. So, just contact us and get involved in some way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tessa.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Livingston.
Thank you for having us.
Great, fantastic work that they're doing out there. As I said, please check out their information and get involved. Once again, another show has come to an end. Thank you very much to my guests. I've been Janelle Raeburn. You've been watching Conversations with Janelle. Until next time, have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Great stuff.